I actually have a I have a playlist that I play during October. Just I call it my Halloween playlist, and it's a bunch of metal songs that are just like
Yeah.
kind of evil sounding, and this is one of them. This is on there.
Welcome to the Greatest Lists podcast, a show about music and lists. This season, your hosts Jason and Eric are counting down the top 25 guitar solos of the 80s and the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. Think your favorite made the list? Tune in and find out. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to Greatest Lists, a music and talk podcast featuring lists of the greatest songs of all time. I am Eric, your host for this episode, and joining me, as always, my main man, Jason. What's going on, man?
Hey, doing okay. A little under the weather. I've got this bad headache from doing the homework for this episode. I might need a painkiller for my painkiller.
We might be able to hook you up there. We we are continuing our season 2 list of our favorite guitar solos of all time, and we're currently in the 90s, doing the top 25 from the 90s. And coming in at number 18 is a song we've actually featured before. It was actually featured in one of our Hall of Fame Spotlight shows. I'm talking about Judas Priest and Painkiller.
Behind the music.
Painkiller is from the band's 12th album by the same name. It was released as a single in 1990 and quickly became a mainstay of the band's live set and is still a mainstay of their set to this day. There are 2 guitar solos in this song. The first is played by Glenn Tipton, and the second is played by K.K. Downing. Tipton has stated several times that the Painkiller solo is his favorite to play. It's also his first recorded solo to heavily feature the sweep-picking guitar technique that he does at the beginning of his solo. He didn't do much of that in the 11 albums prior to that, but all of a sudden, bam, he just does it. And
I got to try something new.
yeah, I got to do something new. We're getting old.
Bit fresh.
Glenn Tipton has a signature guitar line produced by ESP Guitars. K.K. Downing, who has basically played a flying V guitar his entire career, has a custom guitar model with his name on it from a company called KXK. In 2005, the Gibson Guitar Shop produced a signature K.K. Downing Flying V and a Glenn Tipton signature SG guitar that was sold as a box set. Basically, only 30 sets were created and sold. They went for around $10,000 to $12,000 a piece.
It seems low.
No, for each guitar.
Oh, okay. That's better.
Yeah.
Price of a Cadillac, people.
Now, however, in the present day, neither of these guys play for Judas Priest anymore at this point. Downing officially left Judas Priest in 2011, citing, quote unquote, an ongoing breakdown in working relationships between myself, elements of the band, and management for some time. And in 2018, Glenn Tipton revealed that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. At this point, he plays 1 or 2 songs at various shows during the band's tour. He's not on every night, but he shows up for certain dates and plays 1 or 2 songs towards the end. But during their Hall of Fame performance last November, both guitarists were back on stage to play with the band. So that was good to see. There was some question on whether or not K.K. Downing would be invited back to play at the Hall of Fame show. So it was good to see that they mended fences long enough to get the entire original band back on the stage.
Cool.
Let's get personal.
So my first real intro to Judas Priest, aside from a solo song here or there that I saw on MTV, my first huge dose of Priest came from their hugely successful Turbo album. But it was the album after that really got me to become a diehard Priest fan. They put out a live album after that album. It's called Priest Live. I was in high school at the time, and the other guy, and the other guitar player in the band I was in, we learned basically the entire album, Priest Live album, learning both parts. He would learn to play the Tipton parts, and I would learn to play the K.K. Downing parts. And we would literally go to usually his house because his parents weren't home, and we could turn up our amps as loud as we wanted to. turn up the music as loud as I want to, and just play this. I think we played this album, multiple times a week, just playing straight through it. I just that's when I fell in love with Judas Priest is with that album. I've seen him live 3 times. I saw him once in the 80s, and the last time I saw him was in 2018. And I've just been, ever since I was a teenager, I've just been a huge Judas Priest fan. And I'm sure you have too, right, Jason?
Oh, of course, yeah. Right there, headbanging with you, brother.
I don't believe that.
My first exposure to Judas Priest was probably Beavis and Butthead.
Oh no!
Breaking the law, breaking the law.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, too heavy for me, man.
Yeah, they are pretty heavy.
No, this is pretty much the first time I remember listening to the song, and I like to sing along with my songs. I serenade my windshield on occasion. Yeah, there is just no singing along with Rob Halford. I'm telling, especially if you're thrashing your head as much as you want to.
Especially this song. I mean,
yeah,
you could
so heavy.
Yeah, there's several songs that you can kind of sing along with when it comes to Priest, like Another Thing Coming, or things like that. But this one, no, you're not singing along with this one. I'll tell you this, just speaking of, and this is a side note on Rob Halford. I think he's in his 70s now. Mm-hmm. But when I saw them in 2018, we kind of sat off to the side. First of all, it's 2018. He's like in his early 70s. He hits every note still.
Crazy.
But what's funny is when the guitars go into their solos, he goes off stage, and we finally got to see over on the side stage what he was doing. He's back there taking oxygen.
Jeez.
And then he goes back out on stage and sings some more. I mean, the dude is impeccable when it comes to vocal, his vocal prowess and the way he takes care of his voice. But just to be able to sing that way still when he's in his 70s,
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, there are definitely. I do remember having a CD compilation in the 90s that had You Got Another Thing Coming on it. That was probably my second introduction after Beavis and Butthead. But yeah, just
hurts
never.
My heart.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm ruining it for you.
The breakdown.
So before we go any further, I think it's important to note that the lyrics of this story tell the story. Now, I got this from Wikipedia, but it made me chuckle, so I had to put it in the.
Okay.
The lyrics tell the story of the Painkiller, the character featured on the cover of the album, who is a cyborg superhero who saves mankind from destruction. I mean, what more do you need than that right there?
Nothing at all.
So
how many other songs do you know? Like, tell the story about what's on the cover of the album. Aerosmith would be singing about milking a cow,
cow udder,
two trucks humping. I mean,
hey, at least this is a cyborg superhero. Okay, come on.
Right? Yeah. Gosh, people can relate to that.
So the first solo is Glenn Tipton, and it starts with the sweep picking that I mentioned earlier, and it's incredibly difficult to play. I can't pull those off at all, and I've never been able to at any speed that sounds good. He's a very technical player, and so that whole first solo is just a lesson in technical prowess. I like his syncopated riffs that he plays at the beginning too. Just kind of plays along with the drum beat. And he has some very technical, fast parts towards the end of his. The second solo is towards the end of the song, and it's deceptively difficult. KK Downing plays a lot of what we call pinch harmonics, just those squealing, those notes that sound like they're squealing. Mm-hmm. And in this solo, he's playing those all over the neck. And to move around the neck and pull those off like that takes some effort and talent. So while his solo is not as technical as Glenn Tipton's, it's still deceptively difficult to play. But they just, this is how they play on most of their songs when they trade off solos. Glenn Tipton is always the more technical guy that can play faster and play more technical stuff, and Tipton is just, and Downing just likes to just destroy the guitar. He just plays hard and heavy and doesn't, it's not so much technical, but it's just hard. Mm-hmm. So I just this entire song I love. I don't like. There's not a part I don't like. But all the guitar work in it is ridiculous. That riff, that main riff of the song by itself is hard to play. And I've never even put my hand to try either one of these solos. Because, you know, they're just ridiculous. But
I can hear it. I mean, I wrote down, there's not really words to describe it. Maybe one word would be uncopyable. I mean, I don't even know how he could, like, after recording that, you know, for an album, how do you pull that off live and get close to it? Because it's a thing of beauty. If we were doing like a technical list, I would say go ahead and put it at number 1. Because,
well, you know, of course, now that, you know, neither one of us playing with a band, they have 2 new guitar players that have filled in their absence.
So much movement.
And those guys have to pull off these solos. And
good luck.
And the guy that the guy that has taken over for KK or for Glenn Tipton or Richie Faulkner, he has said that he's had trouble learning some of Glenn Tipton's solos because they're so technical.
Yeah,
so,
I
you know,
understand that 100%. One thing I did really like about the song, just as a whole, I was very impressed with the drum solo that begins the song. That thing was, wow, you just don't hear drum solos like that introing songs. Yeah. At least I don't.
That guy's named Scott Travis. He's always been that. I mean, he's always, before he was in that, the bands he was in before that, he was always that kind of a drum player too. So, but yeah, it fits the song perfectly too. But you know, the solos are what, you know, just, I think push this over the edge to.
Oh yeah, I'm
just
not
metal.
Not trying to take anything away from them. But to set up the song like that, and then you get into that groove, and then you hear those solos. I mean, wow, what a song!
Yeah, it's our first dose of metal, but I can't guarantee it'll be our last dose of metal. So Judas Priest comes in at number 19 on our list of top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. This week's bonus song comes from the same dynamic duo from their Priest live album. I mentioned my buddy and I basically learned that entire album. This was the song that I picked was the most fun to play. I loved playing it when we would just, you know, play along with the album. Glenn Tipton is panned to the left and KK is panned to the right. It's the live version of You've Got Another Thing Coming. So that'll be our bonus song. If you have Spotify Premium, which we recommend, stay tuned to hear the bonus song in its entirety at the end of the episode. Free Spotify users will get 30 seconds of the song, but outside of Spotify, you'll have to rely on the song whip links in the show notes that will connect you to the songs in your favorite music apps. Give us your thought on today's episode or any episode, really, via social media. You can find us on Twitter at Greatest Lists. You can also stream this episode and all episodes at greatestlistpodcast.com. Or, of course, we're available in all your favorite listening apps. Jason, we're back in charge for our number 18 song in the next episode. Thanks for listening to The Greatest Lists, and we look forward to continuing our list next time.
You've been listening to The Greatest Lists.